Okay, so just to kind of highlight what we were saying about online safety, technology and that kind of thing, I've got some codes to share with you. This is a list of codes that kids are using to kind of dupe adults. So a way of having a language that you don't know what they're talking about in case you're checking their phones and checking their laptops. Also codes that can be used by someone who's grooming somebody else to help keep their anonymity and make sure that they're not being picked up on. So I'm going to pause after each one and let you have a think about what it might mean. So the first one, LH6. Okay, that's let's have sex. Seems quite an obvious one, but if you were just scrolling through a teenager's texts, teenagers often abbreviate a lot of things. You might just see LH6 and go past it like that. But LH6, let's have sex. KYS. Okay, that stands for kill yourself. So like I said before, there are these online games, forums, things like that that encourage children to harm themselves and take their own lives. KYS, kill yourself. CD9. That's code 9, and that means parents are in the room. So if you had a child typing away on a laptop to somebody and they didn't want, they needed to know if it was safe to put certain things, and you entered the room, I can just put code 9. If I wrote, shut up, my parents are in the room, that would look suspicious to you. You might see CD9 and think, don't know what that means. CD99 then means parents have left the room, we're safe. And again, if I was grooming a child, I could set them up with those codes. I don't want your parents to know, I don't want your parents to read my messages because they're going to think I'm stupid for how soppy I am. So let me know when they're in the room. LMIRL. Okay, that's let's meet in real life. BMPFB. That's be my personal fuck buddy. Okay, and having casual sex, so friends with benefits, is becoming more and more common in children. This disregard for relationships, but the fact that you should just be having sex with people, very, very common. ASL, I'm sure you'll all know, it's age, sex, location, that's quite an old one. KOTL. That's kiss on the lips, and I'm just going to put that together with this one, HAK. That's hugs and kisses. Now, kiss on the lips and hugs and kisses is an example of where if we ask a child what something means, a reaction could tell us a lot. So this could be perfectly innocent. It could be a teenager with a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You ask that teenager, well, what does KOTL mean? And they go, oh, it means we're kissing. That wouldn't raise as much suspicion or concern for me as if they went, nothing. Why are you always being so nosy? So a reaction can tell us a lot, as can hugs and kisses. Now, it could be innocent, it could not. If I was grooming a child, I would start off very low. I would start off by HH, holding hands. Then I might move up to hugs and kisses. Then I might move up to kiss on the lips. Then it might be, let's meet in real life. Okay, so it could be innocent, could not be. KPC. That is keeping parents clueless. 1174, you won't know. 1174 is a code that's used for let's meet at our spot. So for some kids, if they're meeting up to take drugs or to drink or something, they might have a spot, and rather than putting a message where that is so parents can find out, they might have a code for it. Equally, if I'm grooming children as part of a wider ring, I'm not going to put into a message where we are meeting. I'm going to have a spot where we meet and then take children from there, or there will be codes. So 1174 might not be the code used by everybody, but don't forget, if you see a code, something like that you don't understand, if a child just gets a message saying 1174 and you see that, then we need to be finding out what that means. ADR is what's your address. GYPO. That's get your pants off. CU for 6, CU for sex. WTTP. Want to trade photos. So again, this, send me a picture of yours, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. GNOC. Get naked on camera. So as you can see, this stuff's out there, it's real, it's not just our looked after children, but what we do know about our looked after children is they are even more vulnerable. And more vulnerable within society. So we really, really, really need to try and get a grasp and monitor as much as we can. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I'd take their phones off them. I will tell you now, children will access social media, will access communication in some way. So just stopping them or taking things off them or having a go at them is not going to stop, because there will be an underlying reason why children are engaging in certain behaviours or activities or susceptible to certain things, and generally it's because of the trauma that they've experienced. So job number 1, be that trusted person, build relationships. Crucial, vital, so important. So when we're thinking about risks then, an acceptable risk that a child could take has to be recognised as a risk by the child. So the child has to understand that there is some level of danger involved, otherwise they're not going to have any sort of ability to protect themselves. Okay, so just as I would a baby that couldn't sit up, I wouldn't take the risk of allowing them to sit up and whipping something away. The child has no understanding. That's maybe not the best example, but children need to understand that there's some sort of risk. If I don't understand when I'm climbing this tree that I could fall out of it and hurt myself, then when I'm climbing the tree I'm going to be really reckless and not look for the nearest branch and just expect that I can just scoot up there and everything's going to be fine. Therefore I will fall out of it. Acceptable risks need to be similar to challenges that children have already demonstrated that they're competent to meet. So for example, I grew up in Beverley, and growing up in Beverley, when I grew up in Beverley it was very small, and Hull was like another country. You needed a passport to go to Hull. And one of my mates at school said, oh, should we all go to Hull on the train together? And I was like, wow, yeah, let's do it. But I'd never even been into Beverley Town with my friends. So what my mum did was say, no, you can't go into Hull on the train, but you can go into town with your friends and I'll drop you off and pick you up. Then you can walk into town with your friends and then maybe we'll look at going to Hull on the train. And so it was, I met certain challenges along the way that showed that I could now do this other thing, which was going to Hull with my mates on the train. And going into Hull on the train was really exciting when I was a kid. And acceptable risks need to offer challenges, but not taking children too far out of their comfort zone. So for a child that's never climbed anything, I'm not going to take them to Rock City and go for your life. Off you go. Okay. So the question there, who's done a risk assessment? And you might be thinking, well, no, we don't do risk assessments at my job. Everyone's done a risk assessment. How many of you have ever crossed the road when the red man's showing? Okay, you know there's a risk, but you've done a risk assessment and decided the benefit of getting across that road really quickly outweighs waiting, and actually I can see there's no cars. So you're assessing risk all the time. Every decision you make with children, you will be assessing risks constantly. Okay, so in your packs you should have 2 case studies, one called Marianne and one called James. So what I want you to do is pause me, and I want you to have a read of Marianne. And if there's two of you, have a discussion. If there's one of you, just have a think, make some notes if you want. What are your thoughts on this? Are you saying yes or are you saying no? If you're saying no, blanket no, not happening, I want you to have a think. What are the risks of you saying no? If you're saying yes, but, I want to know what the buts are. Okay, so pause me now. Okay, Marianne then. So Marianne is 14, she's got cerebral palsy, uses a wheelchair, wants to see her cousins who live in London, which is a 3-hour train ride away. She's trying to convince her foster carer that she should be allowed to travel to see them alone. So for those of you who said no, absolutely not, I asked you to think about the risks of saying no. So one of the risks of saying no is that she's going to do it anyway. Whenever we say no to children, they might do something anyway. When I was at college, we used to go to LA's on a Tuesday night. Some of you may remember LA's, the car wash on a Tuesday night. And my friend, I'd gone to my parents, I think I was 17, and my parents had said to me, yes, you can go, but, and there was some buts. They took me, they picked me up, I only drank soft drinks, etc, etc. So there was certain stipulations. One of my friends, Kerry, she went to her mum and her mum said, no. Not up for discussion, you're not going. So what Kerry did was she used to get very sneaky. One night she jumped out of her bedroom window to go to LA's. Other nights she would lie and say she was staying at friends' houses. And what that created was this deception. And ultimately, it damaged Kerry and her mum's relationship because when mum found out and Kerry felt that her mum didn't trust her. So we can be encouraging deception and children lying to us if they're going to do it anyway. Also, it can damage relationships if children think we don't trust them. So you've had a little think about Marianne. So those of you who are saying yes, but, let's have a think about some of the stuff we might need to consider. So what's her personal confidence? Is she a confident person? If she's very nervous and doesn't feel she can do it herself in the first place, then that's going to make us feel very different to if she's very confident, she's done it before, I know what I'm doing. Marianne's understanding of the challenges that she may encounter. So does she understand the risks? Like we've talked about before, acceptable risks need to be identified as risks by the child. So does she understand that there are challenges and risks involved? What's her past experience of independent travel, like I've already said? How will she communicate to staff concerns? So is she able to ask for help? Can she say to somebody, help me please? Does she have verbal communication? What's the wheelchair provision on the route and support for getting on and off the train? So at this point, I'll just say to you, it says she's got cerebral palsy. What does that mean? So in my work in disability services, thinking of a line of continuum of disabilities, I've worked with children all the way over there, I've worked with children all the way over there. Now if we bring a line that is just cerebral palsy, I've worked with a child at this end of the line with cerebral palsy who, if you met him, you wouldn't even know he had cerebral palsy. Very, very mild. Just affects some of his limbs, but not noticeably. Go to this end of the line. I've worked with a girl with cerebral palsy who is paralysed from the neck down, has no speech, is fed through a tube. She doesn't have the muscles to chew. So what does cerebral palsy mean? So basically we need more information. How confident is she about who she's meeting and how confident are you? So who are these people that she's going to see? Are they real? Have we met them? Do we know that they're who she says they are? So you might have had some other ideas. That's absolutely brilliant. These are some of the things that we need to think about. The key is you need more information. Okay, so next up we've got James. So same thing again, I want you to have a read of James And are you saying yes or no? If you're saying no way, absolutely not, then think, what are the risks of you saying no? If you're saying yes but, or I need more information, what is that information that you need and what are the buts? Okay, so pause me now and have a read of James. Okay, so James is 14. He wants to play Call of Duty Black Ops 2, an 18 rated game, which is gritty, violent military game. Players engage in graphic combat that involves constant killing, using realistic weapons, revealing blood and gore. It sounds delightful. It uses frequent profanities. The game also allows online communication between players, so James could be exposed to inappropriate language and topics of conversation from other players. James says that all of his friends play the game and that he will be laughed at and left out of things if he doesn't play. So with this one, the majority of people are not saying no, but we do often get 2 or 3 no's. It's a no. So if you're one of those people sat there going, well, yeah, that's me, what are the risks of you saying no? So just like Marianne, there's a risk that he's going to do it anyway. So like I said, children will find a way. There's also the risk to your relationship. Why don't you trust him? And the other risk, he gives you a clue right here. He says that all of his friends play the game and that he will be laughed at. Now, as a kid, my mum used to say to me, well, if your friend stuck their head in a fire, would you? If your friend jumped off a cliff, would you? And I'd be like, well, no, Mum, of course I'm not going to stick my head in a fire. What's that got to do with me needing the latest trainers? For James, we need to think about how real this risk is. For a lot of our looked after children, they experience that stigma of being the care kid at school and are already laughed at and left out of things. If our children really struggle to form friendships or relationships, if they've moved schools numerous times and don't really have any connections, how important is it to them to fit in, and how important is this game to helping them to fit in? Because to be left out of this could be the final straw for this child. So we really need to have a think about the severity of that for this child. Some of you might have thought, well, it's illegal. I'll just say it's not illegal. If James already owns the game or sources it from somewhere else, it's not illegal for him to play it. It's illegal for him to buy it or for you to buy it for him. It's legal to sell it to him, and it's legal to sell it to somebody believing it's for someone underage. It's not illegal for him to possess it, and it's not illegal for him to play it. So let's have a look at James then, if we're saying yes but. So things we might consider are, could he become addicted to this game? You know, for some children, they can really just become quite anxious about it. You know, I've got to be on my game, I've got to be on my game, and it can start to consume them and rule their life, as any addiction does. Has it got the potential to do this to James? Could this particular game remind James of trauma from his past? So is it too close to the bone? Is this game going to be directly linked to James's past? And is there other games that we could look at that would better suit James? Could the game teach him valuable skills, such as how to communicate? Could this be what James needs to be able to put himself out there and develop friendships? Is he mature enough to play the game? So by mature, we don't just mean how old is he. We mean his understanding of games, of what it means, of is he likely to go and try and recreate this? Is he a child at how old is he? 14. At 14, is he a child that still engages in pretend play? Because if so, he could really put himself into this game. I'll give you an example of a young man I worked with who I was watching a soap with him. I can't remember what soap it was, but say for example it was Emmerdale, and somebody died in this soap. And now this lad was 14, and if you met him, you'd think he was really streetwise. He'd come across as quite a cheeky chappy, quite cocky, with a good grasp on the world. But he had mild learning difficulties, and one day we got a real wake-up call as to what that meant for him when we were watching Emmerdale. Somebody died and he really didn't understand what death meant, and he was going, I don't get it, I don't understand, what does that mean? So we spent a lot of time talking to him and explaining what death meant and what it meant for somebody not to be here anymore. Then a few months down the line, we're watching another soap with him, say Coronation Street, and the person who had died in Emmerdale popped up in Coronation Street, as a lot of soap actors do, and this young man absolutely freaked out. He couldn't handle it. He was shouting, she's dead, she's supposed to be dead, why is she getting a drink, why is she in the Rovers, why is she doing that, she's supposed to be dead. He couldn't understand why this person was dead, but now they were getting a drink. And I was like, oh my goodness, he thinks this is real. He thinks everything he sees on telly is real. So if he plays this game and he's shooting people and killing people, he's going to think that's real, and he's going to think he's done it. And how far could that go outside of the game? So maturity is really important. And then I put here, could you let him play it under certain conditions? So there's going to be things you want to know in place. I'm pretty sure none of you have said, yeah, play it, do as you like, whatever, yeah. So we're going to be looking at, is he playing with people he knows? You're going to want to have a look at his friends list and who's in that group. Has he got good security? Is he not sharing personal information? Can he demonstrate that he can manage online risks? Has he been to you before and said they don't know this person? Does he know how to block bullies? Check his friends list, but then check it again, because people can be added in. There was a case of a young man who was sadly killed by somebody who entered a gaming group of some friends and became part of this group online, and then what he was doing was sussing out which is the vulnerable one, which is the most emotionally vulnerable, and then he contacted that boy outside of the group and said, do you know what they're all saying about you? They're all talking about you, they all say this, and I don't think it's fair, and I want to be your friend. And sadly, that young man that ultimately was killed by this person who was grooming. So on online groups, it's really important that we monitor them and we know who each person is. And hopefully you know friends' parents, and they can be doing the same thing, and we can all be sharing what we know about what's going on. Okay, so that's James and Marianne. So unacceptable risks require an understanding that children cannot have. If the child doesn't understand it to be a risk, such as the child I worked with, not understanding reality and fiction, doesn't understand the risks involved in playing this game, then we're not going to let them take that risk. What I will say to you is, with any decision like this, if you're sat there and you're thinking, I'm scared to make this decision, I don't feel confident in making this decision, the child hasn't been with me for long and I don't know them well enough, your fostering social worker is there. You can speak to your fostering social worker. You can say, please, can you help me? I've got this decision and I don't know what to do. That's absolutely fine. Please ask for help. These activities are designed to make you think, but you are not on your own. If a foster carer contacted me and said, I've got this decision to make, can you help? What I would say, I wouldn't say to you, okay, I'm going to come in and make the decision for you. What I would be doing with you is having a discussion and saying, what do you think? What are your thoughts? What can you tell me about this child? And let's have a look at it together. Okay, but please, please ask for help. So when we're looking at activities that hold at risk and we're trying to decide whether to go ahead with those activities, here's some questions we can ask ourselves. Is there a benefit to the activity? Is there going to be any sort of benefit to this activity? If the answer is no, then that kind of tells us that maybe we shouldn't be doing it. Does the child have the understanding needed to take a risk without threat to their safety, which we've already talked about? Is there a risk to not undertaking the activity, which we've talked about, and what might the positive or negative outcomes be, and how do we find that balance? So that's what it's all about. It's about finding the balance between the risks of not doing it and the benefits of doing it, and how do we meet those in the middle. Okay, we're going to look at, go on to look at safer caring now.